Welcome to Government Degree College, Mahbubad, Telangana State. Department of Commerce, Business Statistics, Paper 1. Learning resource prepared by G. Srinivas, Assistant Professor of Commerce. Continuation of previous class. Let us discuss statistical investigation in this class. By the term investigation or inquiry or survey, we mean the search for information or knowledge. Statistical investigation thus implies search for knowledge with the help of statistical devices. Inquiries have always required considerable skills on the part of the statistician, rooted in a broad knowledge of the subject matter and combined with the considerable ingenuity in overcoming the numerical facts, since statistical analysis is not possible without them. For example, if an investigation is made into accounts of a college hostel, then the investigation will mainly cover income from residents as rent, meal charges, any grant from college, expenditure as hotel rent, overhead charges, expenditure on dry rations, broad meals, including special meals, and expenditure for annual functions. Statistical investigation or a statistical survey passes through various stages before completion, starting from planning and ending with writing the final report. These stages can be summarized under two heads: planning the survey and executing the survey. Planning the survey. A proper system is essential for conducting a statistical investigation or survey. Planning must precede investigation or survey. Planning must precede the execution. Careful planning is essential to get the best results at the minimum cost and time. It is essential to consider the following points while planning a statistical investigation. Number one, purpose or objective of the survey. The second one is scope of the inquiry should be determined. Sources of data collection or type of data to be used, that is primary or secondary, should be decided. Then unit of data collection is decided. Techniques of data collection, that is, and choice of frame or construction of a frame, degree of accuracy design, and miscellaneous considerations, if any. Now, statistical investigations passes through these various stages. The first one is purpose or objective of the survey. The purpose or object of the survey should be clearly set out at the very beginning. It will necessitate a clear statement of the problem, indicating that we are interested in determining the type of information which is needed and the use to which the information obtained will be put. For example, if the object of inquiry is to study the nature of price changes over a period of time, then it would be necessary to collect data on commodity prices, and it must be decided whether it would be helpful to study or not. Then let us look at scope of the survey. Before we're going to obtain the data, so once the purpose of the survey has been clearly stated, the next step is to decide about the scope of the survey. That is, its coverage with regard to the type of information, the subject matter, and geographical area. For instance, an inquiry related to the industrial relations may be undertaken with the help of data relating to trade union membership, industrial disputes, wages of workers, etc., or only with the help of the data on the frequency and severity of strikes. An inquiry may be related to India as a whole, or one particular state, or an industrial town. The larger the coverage of the investigation, the more representative are likely to be the results. However, much will depend upon the purpose. Then let us plan for types of statistical units. That means the unit of data collection. Before organizing the task of collecting data, the statistical unit or units must be clearly defined for the purpose of investigation. The unit in terms of which the investigator counts or measures the variables or attributes selected for enumeration, analysis, and interpretation is known as a statistical unit. For example, in a population census, the statistical unit is a person. Similarly, if the number of houses in a particular area is counted, then the unit is a house. However, the problem of defining the unit is not as simple as it appears to be. To take an example, if we are making a study of the size of sugar mills, we have different criteria of measuring the size of mills, such as capital employed, number of employees, total production, etc. The investigator has to select one of these for size classification and then proceed to collect necessary information. If capital employed is selected as the basis of classification, the unit may be the rupees or the thousands of rupees. If the number of workmen is the basis, then the employee will be the statistical unit. The basis of determining the size must therefore be clearly defined, and the same definition followed throughout the survey. While fixing the statistical unit for an inquiry, it is useful to keep in mind the following points. The unit must be suit the purpose of inquiry. It should be simple to understand. It should be specific. It should be stable in character. If the unit changes its characteristics, example, a yard at one time and a meter at another time, the measurements and counts would be misleading. A statistical unit may be arbitrary or conventional. In other words, it may be used in a special sense or in the sense prevalent in common usage. But whatever be the sense in which the unit is used, it is essential that the meaning should be clear and unambiguous. Then units of collection. The statistical units can broadly be classified under two heads. One is units of collection and units of analysis and interpretation. Let us take units of collection. These are units in terms of which data are collected. They involve either counting of measurements, the former being employed in the case of physical items and the latter in respect of quantitative attributes. In the process of collection, therefore, one may deal with either discrete entities and events relating to them, as in the case of persons, houses, livestock, number of accidents, and number of deaths, or with measurable quantities and value units such as tons, kilograms, liters. The second type of units are units of analysis and interpretation. Data are generally collected for making comparisons. Comparisons can be made after within reference to time or space. Units of analysis and interpretation are those which facilitate comparison. They include rates, ratios, and percentages, and coefficients. Rates, as we know, are used to those cases where comparisons are made between quantities of different kinds. That is, where the numerator and the denominator are not of the same kind, such as birth rates and death rates. Rates are usually expressed per thousands. However, there is no hard and fast rule about it. Ratios and percentages, we know, are used where quantities to be compared are the same kind of. For instance, the ratio of literates to illiterates. Example, 1:4, or literates are 20% of the population. Rate per unit is called a population. The another unit for analysis and interpretation is coefficients. Rate per unit is called a coefficient. For example, if it is stated the death rate in India at present is 16% of 16% or 1.6 per thousand, it means that the coefficient of deaths is 0.016. If this coefficient is multiplied by the total population, we obtain the total number of deaths. So these are the statistical units. When we are going to collect the data, we should keep in mind the units of collection. Then let us look at collection of data. That is, sources of data. After the purpose and scope have been defined, the next step is to decide about the sources of data. The sources of information may be either primary data and secondary data. When the investigator collects first-hand for the purpose at hand, such data are known as primary data. On the other hand, if he obtains the data from published or unpublished sources, such data will constitute secondary data for him. Quite often, it is necessary to make use of both the sources in a particular investigation. However, it much depends upon the purpose and scope of investigation. Then let us look at techniques of data collection. There are two important techniques of data collection, namely census technique or census method and sample technique or sampling method. A census is complete enumeration of each and every unit of the universe, whereas in a sample, only a part of the universe is studied and conclusions about the entire universe are drawn on the basis. For example, if the data about the consumption pattern of people of Delhi are to be collected, an investigator has to decide as to whether heads of each family are to be contacted or whether heads of only few families are to be contacted. In the former case, it is the census method, whereas in the latter sample one, the census method is considered and more time consuming as compared to the sample method. The investigator must decide which technique he will use. The choice would depend upon a number of factors such as the availability of resources, the time factor, the degree of accuracy desired, and nature and the scope of the problem. Then, the choice of a frame or construction of frame. The term frame or population frame refers to the listing of all units in the population under study. Identification of the unit in a population under study is often a difficult task. If we want to find out the capital invested and number of workers working in a small scale industries in Delhi, we must have a complete list of names and addresses of all the small scale firms. Consequently, until nature and accuracy of available frames are known, detailed planning of the survey cannot be undertaken. If no frame exists, the construction of a frame suitable for the purpose of the survey will constitute a major part of planning. Various types of defects may exist in the available frames. Frames may be inaccuracy, incomplete, subject to duplicate, inadequate, out of date. So these are the few defects may be come across while going to conduct the data. If without frame, we go to take the information. It is therefore essential at the outset of the survey to carry out a careful investigation of the frame that is proposed to be adapted, since defects are not apparent until a detailed investigation has been made. Such an investigation will naturally commence with a study of the administrative machinery by which the frame has been conducted and by which it is kept up to date, and may also have to include certain amount of field work. After construction of frame, let us discuss degree of accuracy. The investigator has to decide about the degree of accuracy that he wants to attain. It may be pointed out that absolute accuracy is seldom possible in statistical work, because statistics are based on estimates. Tools of measurement are not always perfect, and there may be unintentional bias on the part of the investigator, enumerator, or informant. Hence, if an attempt is made to attain 100% accuracy, it may not be realistic. Even when a perfect accuracy is possible, it may not be worth the time and money that would be spent in attaining it. Degree of accuracy desired primarily depends upon the object of inquiry. For example, In weighing gold, even 1/100th of gram is material, whereas weighing wheat or rice, difference of a few grams may not be materially significant. However, it does not mean that one should sacrifice accuracy to keep down the cost. It would ultimately depend upon the purpose of investigation. Quite often, the investigator finds it desirable to collect data quickly and have approximate results rather than spend a lot of time and money for attaining a slightly higher degree of accuracy. It is that are likely to raise. It is therefore desirable that an eye be kept on the possible inaccuracies that are likely to raise due to clerical and other types of errors, so that they may be eliminated altogether or reduced to minimum. So the enumerator or investigator should decide the what percentage of degree of accuracy is desired to collect the data. The next, another planning of data collection, that is miscellaneous considerations. Consideration should be given to various other matters such as whether the inquiry is official or semi-official or non-official, confidential or non-confidential, regular or ad hoc, initial or repetitive, and the last consideration is direct or indirect. An official survey is conducted by or on behalf of central, state, or local self-governments. A semi-official inquiry by bodies which have government patronage, and non-official inquiry by private bodies or individuals. The facilities available will naturally differ according to the nature of inquiry. In a legal inquiry, people may be compelled to supply information. In a semi-official inquiry, people may be requested and information may be available without much difficulty. Whereas in a non-official inquiry, the investigator may have to face the greatest difficulty in collecting data. A confidential survey is one in which the results are kept confidential and are made known to the general public. On the other hand, a non-confidential survey is one the results of which are published, that is, results of such survey are open to the general public. A regular survey is that in which data are collected at regular intervals for a period of time, whereas in ad hoc survey, data are collected as and when necessary without any regularity. And initial survey is one that is carried out for the first time, whereas a repetitive survey is one that is conducted in continuation of previous data collection, whereas in the latter case, such a plan already exists and may only need modification in the light of past experiences. Now, now look at direct and indirect considerations. Direct is one where the data are capable of direct quantitative measurement such as height, wage, and income. On the other hand, in direct inquiry, direct quantitative measurements is not possible as, for example, intelligence, efficiency, and honesty. In the latter case, one has to take up certain objective measurable phenomena which reflect the quantitative phenomena and then proceed to collect data. The matters discussed above in planning of statistical survey or statistical investigation, the nature of precautions intended to ensure that the material obtained in a reliable. Some of these precautions are nothing more than common sense, but are nonetheless worth noting for if they are neglected. The results may be completely useless. Now, the second part of statistical investigation is executing survey. After a plan of data has been prepared, the next step is to execute the survey. The various phases of work subsequent to the planning stage may be enumerated as follows. Setting up an administrative organization, design of forms, selection, training, and supervision of the field investigation, control over the quality of the field work and field audit, executing the survey, follow-up non-response, processing of data, and the preparation of report. So these are the few steps in executing the survey. Then let us see these stages one by one. The first one is setting up of an administrative organization. The administrative organization required for an inquiry will depend very much on the nature and scope of the inquiry. Every opportunity should be taken to utilize existing administrative and office organization. When the inquiry covers a large area, supervision from a central office is likely to be difficult, and in such cases, it is best to establish regional offices. Very frequently, some existing organization can be used for the purpose. The second one is design of forms. Careful attention should be given to the designing of various forms that will be used in the course of the inquiry, especially the questionnaires. Another important issue you should keep in mind while executing the survey: selection, training, and supervision of the field investigators. In most surveys, the data are to be collected through enumerators who work part-time or full-time. The nature of the enumerator's job is such a great care has to be exercised in his selection. In fact, since the very success of survey depends largely upon the field investigators, it is essential that they are properly selected, thoroughly trained, and their work closely supervised. Field investigators may be specially appointed, or they may consist of the existing staff appointed for other work and may be requested to undertake the survey work on a voluntary basis or on a small honorarium. After selection of enumerators, they have been trained, and while they are conducting the survey, the process of supervision of the field investigators also should be there, and control over the quality of the field work and the field audit. Steps must be taken to ensure that the survey is under statistical control, that the errors to which it is subject are random and no ascertainable causes of variations are present. A system of field checks by the supervisor should also be introduced. The field check should be preferably be carried out on a random subsample of units and should be conducted in such a manner that investigators do not have prior knowledge of the work going to be checked. If it is found that the enumerator is not honest and is not following the instructions, all his returns should be reviewed and he should be removed from the field. After the work of collection of data is complete and the questionnaires or schedules are handed over by the enumerators to the supervisor while in the field, the supervisor should scrutinize these to check omissions, inconsistencies, illegible writing and other errors before they are passed on to the headquarters. This editing is highly useful because of several reasons. Now, follow-up non-response. In spite of best efforts, some of the respondents may not supply the desired information. A suitable machinery for dealing with such cases should be set up. One method of dealing with the non-response problems is to make a list of non-respondents and take a small subsamples of them. Then with the help of supervisory staff, vigorous efforts can be made for securing response. And the processing of data. After the data have been collected, the efforts shift from the field to the office. The data are to be given a thorough check, content transferred to cards or tapes and tabulated. These operations are in no way less important than the collection of data. There are chances of errors arising at every step, and hence one has to be cautious. And preparation of preparation of reports. After the data have been collected and analyzed, it is usually necessary to embody of results of the survey in the form of report. The preparation of report therefore constitutes the final step in execution. Two kinds of reports may be presented. Either a general report giving a description of the survey for the use of those who are primarily concerned with the results, or a technical report giving details of the sample design, computational procedures, accuracy, and allied aspects. In this connection, it will be useful to follow the recommendations made by the United Nations Statistical Office on the subject of preparation of reports. For example, conduction of psychology and law. The best example for collecting data is census data. Every 10 years, our central government conducts the data of population in our country. While collecting the data from population of Indian people, we follow all these steps to get accurate population census.